Well, welcome to another episode of Port Charles Chat. I'm Mom.
And I'm Brandon.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
All right, Brandon, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Mom. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine, Brandon. You ready to talk about another exciting week in Port Charles?
I sure am. Are you?
All right, I am. And this is the week of June 2nd through June 6th, and we are taping this on June 6th. And so let's talk a little bit about Michael and Willow and the trial. So just to give a little recap, just a little bit, Michael and Willow went to trial, basically in regards to who will have custody of the children. Michael, at this point in time, has temporary custody of the children, and Willow would like to have custody back. And so witnesses were called to speak on the behalf of both Michael and for Willow, and so we learned a little bit during this trial. For example, we learned that, or I should say, the citizens of Port Charles learned that Michael is the father of Sasha's child. That was brought up during the trial, and it was very cleverly done. And that's something that actually Rick kind of was able to lead Sasha into this conversation. After the trial, Drew is made aware that Nina has something to do with Jacinda and the drugs also. And so that's something that we learned, well, that Drew learns after the trial. All right, Brandon, what were your thoughts of the trial?
Oh, yeah, it certainly was interesting that we now have this trial and this lovely floating timeline. But we, yeah, we definitely learned a lot in terms of Michael and who truly does not know. And what's interesting within all of this is not only do we get these two reveals, but Christina almost set herself up to potentially incriminate herself, and Uncle Rick came to the rescue ish.
Yes, Uncle Rick made sure to tell Alexis that Christina was there so that Alexis can pull Christina from the trial. And then what was interesting is they brought Jocelyn in, and Jocelyn was actually a good person to have there on trial. She can hold her own, and so she did a nice job at the trial itself. Of course, the culminating event at the trial was that Sasha had her baby, and she had a girl. Brandon? Were you surprised that this happened?
I'm surprised that they actually went through with it like in one foul swoop. I mean, I know the show loves to sort of drag this stuff out, so I mean, I could have very easily have seen the show like have the birth over the course of several days, but like just throw a weekend there or have it off screen. So the fact that it started and followed through within the next episode, I think was remarkable for the show.
It is remarkable for the show. And even more interesting is that Willow helped with the delivery of Michael's child. And that was after she knew that Michael was the father. So that was interesting to kind of throw in there too. So that was the trial of Michael and Willow. And we have not concluded the trial yet. I guess part two will take place at some point next week. All right. And let's go to Geo. Gio was not seen as much this week. However, Gio does say that he really only trusts Emma and he trusts maybe Sunny. Um, Brooklyn did confirm for him that she did not know that he was her son. However, Gio was still hurt because just the thought that Brooklyn gave up, her child really hurts Gio. And then Gloria and Lois also end up leaving Port Charles because Brooklyn is just not happy with them. And so Brooklyn asks them to go home. And so they do go home back to Bensonhurst. All right, Brandon, what were your thoughts of Geo this week?
Yeah, I mean, we only see him just a few times, but I'd say that his times that we do see him are pivotal. And so I like that he's able to be with his uncle turned grandfather, Sonny, and start building a sort of relationship with him. I like that he's able to get closure with his aunt turned grandmother, Lois, and alongside I guess his now great grandma Gloria, and so I like that he's able to get that closure, and especially in regard to his mom, that it seems that his mom was not. not that she wanted to tell, but that she was for him knowing the truth, just not at that time. But the weird circumstances of that, of who really did or did not really want it known. At least he was able to get some of those answers to those questions. And I think he is at least satisfied with Brooklyn that at least she's being honest with her answers, but he obviously doesn't like her answers to it. But all that being said is that he now has a summer job of being a lifeguard after, I suppose, helping Jocelyn out save Christina last year.
Yeah, and I guess we can say welcome back to the return of the Port Charles pool. The 2 feet pool that's and that's in the Metro Court. Alrighty. So let's talk a little bit about Natalia because Natalia has been missing for a while and she just kind of popped back up. So then we have the return of Natalia. Natalia has returned. She really didn't have a point per se for storyline purposes. At least it didn't appear as though she had a point for returning. She just kind of came up to the Metro Court at near the pool area where everyone was hanging out. Her son happened to be there. She spoke to Marco. She spoke to Marco. Marco's still not happy with her. And so she just went ahead and drank and then left. And then she ended up being arrested because she had a large alcohol level. And so she ends up going to the police station. And then while she's at the police station, we find that Molly comes in and she's supposed to help defend her. Molly recuses herself because of the relationship that Natalia had with Christina, and then ADA Turner comes in and she has some words with her. And so that's what ended up with Natalia. And so it'll be interesting to see how they plan to use ADA and Natalia to work together or work against each other. I'm not quite sure at this point. And so we'll have to see how that goes. Brandon, your thoughts about Natalia returning?
Well, first of all, I mean, I'm excited to even see her back, even though she's not per se the strongest character. It has been a while, and I had to look up really when was the last time we even saw her, and that was somewhere in the middle of April.
Wow. Wow. That's unbelievable.
But yeah, but I'm definitely curious as to what this means with her coming back. But I'm hoping that this ends up with Blaze coming back. I'm hoping that's sort of the segue to this. But the whole thing with 88 Turner kind of intrigues me because she's trying to use Natalia to get back at Sunny. And I don't know, I think 88 Turner is a fascinating character that I would have hoped would have gotten more screen time because we have teased her for months and months. But um, but yeah, so it's not. I don't know. I hope to see it come to fruition.
Okay. Yeah, same here, Brandon. And then we have 2 other storylines we're going to talk about really briefly. First of all, Lucky and Liz. Lucky does propose to Liz. Liz says no. Lucky now wants to leave town and kind of explore the world. And that's basically it in a nutshell for those 2. And then we have Dalton. What I find interesting about Dalton is they're trying to build his backstory, and we're trying to figure out who he's actually has some business with in town. Apparently, he has some business with Sidwell. Um, and WSB is just really on him also. And so so the audience is given just a little bit more insight into Dalton. All right, Brandon, Lucky, Liz, Dalton, any thoughts at all?
Yeah, the Lucky and Elizabeth thing I thought was interesting. I expected the proposal, but I kind of expected her to turn him down. But I don't know. To me, every time that Lucky seems to be heading in that direction, um, I don't know. I never know what to expect because he's teased leaving and coming back and leaving and coming back numerous times over, even within just the several months he's been here. But this one definitely feels more final, I should say, although kind of abrupt that immediately after her turning down and him saying that he doesn't want to leave, he immediately says he's going to go leave. So I don't know what's up with that, but I don't know. Not that I want Elizabeth to leave because I want her to stay, but I think it'd be kind of cool if they were to have like their own little like off-screen adventure for a few weeks.
Yeah, and I will say this: I am so sorry that they didn't give Lucky a storyline that was large enough to kind of capture him, because I think Lucky's such a pivotal character in the story itself, and he does have history. And so I would have liked to see them give him just a little bit of a storyline. He could have been part of the police force because he did that before. He could be doing some more of his humanitarian slash weird odd work that we don't know what he does, but we could have seen him, do some of that in Port Charles. And so I'm sorry they didn't give him a storyline that had a little bit of meat, but they're a little top heavy now. And so they probably didn't know exactly what to do with him. All right. And so now we're up to the performers of the week. Brandon, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All righty. For me, I had two performers of the week. The first was Sasha. I was intrigued by her on the stand. And even when she had the baby, I don't know, I just picked her as my performer of the week. And my next one is actually Diane, because I like the way she kind of handles herself in the courtroom. And so I like that we were able to see Diane in action. All right, Brandon, who are your performers of the week?
Okay, so first of all, before I give my extra one, I agree with what you're saying,
Mhm.
but I'm going to add one more that might shock you a little.
Okay, who's that?
I'm going to add Willow.
You know, Willow's acting, she was very subtle this week. She didn't do anything overt. I almost liked her. So I understand. All right, what is your reasoning, though?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, like, for me, examining her embodied communication and just, like you said, that those subtle movements where you can tell that she notices, but she's not fully consciously figuring things out. It's just sort of triculating in. And, like, when she found out that uh, Sasha's baby's father is Michael, her husband, and just sort of the look in her eyes, and even in Friday's episode, as she was working around the hospital waiting for Wiley and Amelia before coming home to uncle-in-law Drew. Um, I really like the mannerisms that she had this week, and yeah, I just really I don't know. I really liked her performance.
Yeah, I will agree with you this week for Willow. Normally I don't agree with Willow, but I'll agree with you this week. All right, and then we had our amusing scenes of the week. This is one of those weeks I think the writers had a little bit of fun because they gave some nice one-liners. And so, first of all, the first thing that stands out is Tracy's response about the ketamine when she at the courthouse itself. And Brand's laughing at the courthouse itself when Tracy goes up and sees Drew. The first thing she does is she mentions that she didn't have the ketamine or something like that when she was there. And so I thought that was really kind of amusing. And then we have an Alexis and Rick back and forth banter. And I do really like their banters, but Rick called Alexis just to let her know that Christina was there. And they just had a kind of amusing conversation over the phone. And so I kind of like that conversation. And then the other thing that I liked was not Drew. The other thing that I liked was Geo tripping Ezra. They were at the pool, and Ezra was giving Sunny a hard time and Laura. And during that time period, Geo happened to walk by and pushed him into the pool very cleverly. And so, or I should say, tripped him very carefully, cleverly. And so I was amused by those scenes of the week. Brandon, what about you?
Oh yeah, I certainly love those scenes, and yeah, especially with Geo and Councilman Boyle, I thought that was hilarious. Especially Laura's response, which was something along the lines of, "I like that grandson of yours to Sonny." I just thought that was like perfect. The only thing I'd add to that list, to the best of my knowledge, is some of the quick wittedness of Maxie in her conversation to Sonny, and then same thing with her and with Lucas.
Okay, sounds good. And then we had quite a few touching scenes this week. We had Curtis and his father. I was so happy to see him back. I wouldn't think that I would be happy to see him back, but every time he returns, I smile. So I was happy to see him return. And then Jason and Sasha had a nice scene together after she had the baby. And then Michael and Sasha and Willow. And I did include all of them together. I like the three of them together. And that happened when she was, of course, giving birth. But I did like that scene. All right, Brandon, what about you for touching scenes of the week? Oh, there's another one. And that would be Laura and Sunny. They had a nice conversation together, too. All right, what were your touching scenes of the week?
Yeah, I mean, to add on to both to all of those that you mentioned, I will say I liked Nina and Sasha because they were really able to have. I don't know. I really felt a sort of bond, even though Sasha didn't fully understand the grasp of it until the very end when Nina admitted that she was the reason that Rick was tearing into her. But I kind of like that she was still looking out for her, and even though that she went out of her way to sort of put Sasha on the radar, that she still at least didn't intend harm per se. I like that conversation, and I like the end of Friday's episode today with the sort of Corinfo's family, or part three, I guess, with Michael, Willow, and their children looking at the baby. Last thing we saw before the the show cut off for us today, but I really like that scene of seeing them all together because we haven't seen them together in quite a while.
Yes, yes. And then as for fast forward moments, I actually didn't have any this week, which is so rare. Brandon, did you have a fast forward moment?
No, I thought everything was really cohesive this week, and I'd say overall, since the nurses' ball, with the exception of the direct week afterwards with Kai and Trina, I think that it's been a pretty smooth sailing since then.
Yeah, and I will have to agree with that also. It's like the writers have kind of figured it out a little bit. I don't know if that means they plan to bring closure to Michael and Willow or some sort of closure, but I like the way they're performing in those particular scenes. Um, and so I and then bringing Natalia back, it was kind of like a, oh, I think there's this character, but there's another storyline we need to try to angle. We don't know what that storyline is, but it was just the purpose in which she was there that I think is interesting. And so, and it was nice to see, like you say, to see Curtis's father back. It really was nice to see him come back too. So all that to say, welcome back. Welcome back to Curtis's daddy. Welcome back to Natalia. Welcome back, Molly. It's nice to see all of you guys together again. Did I leave out a welcome back, Bran?
I will also say that this week's episode that included Maxie, I think, has been the first real use of Maxie in a while that hasn't just been uh, we need someone to give a pivotal piece of information. Like she actually felt like Maxie in this week's episode.
Yep, I will agree there also. And as for goodbye, I believe we're saying goodbye to Lois and to Gloria, and then soon we're saying goodbye to Lucky, I believe. Did I leave anyone out, Bran?
No, I think that is it. But I will say Lois's final scene for the week, where she went in to Sunny, I thought that we had such a different Lois than we've seen in a while, where normally she's the fun loving person. I mean, she just. I don't know. I mean, did you sense that too? I really felt that Lois was just sort of in her own world and went straight to business, trying to go to Sunny right before going back to Bensonhurst.
Yeah, you could tell that she kind of meant business and that, well, she's hurt right now. And so you could just tell that. All right. And as for next week, things that I'm looking forward to, I am looking forward to the court case and finishing it out. Normally I'm not, but in this case, I'm actually interested to see how this ends. And then I'm interested in the drunk Natalia. I want to see where that's going to lead to also. And so those are the two of the things that I'm kind of looking forward to kind of see if they're going to wrap up or whether or not we're kind of building on something else. All right, Brandon, what about you?
Yeah, and I think if Lucky's going to end up leaving, which first of all, of course, I want real closure. Like I want him to see everyone. Like we haven't seen Isaiah in a moment. I want Lucky and Isaiah to be together.
Yeah. Yep, I agree too. And when I do my normal where is Isaiah?
Yeah, so I definitely want to see them, but I would hope that would mean that this whole Christina thing with the cutting of the brakes is going to get somewhere because I mean, aside from Alexis, he's the only one that knows any of the information or maybe that's why Lucky um, and Alexis met up a couple weeks ago in preparation of Lucky leaving.
Yeah, maybe that is. It could be. All right, Brandon. Is there anything else you want to talk about that went on this week?
No, I mean, I just really liked how cohesive everything was. And even going back to what I was saying about Lois, I think it's such a stark difference from just almost a year ago, where Lois's main storyline was will she or won't she have her accent? Um, and now, I mean, she's deep into these storylines with Brooklyn, and we didn't even mention the whole Brooklyn and Lulu verbal brawl that happened. I mean, there was so much that happened this week.
Yeah, there was a lot. But for the first time, even though we had a lot of characters on, I was not overwhelmed by the characters because there have been previous times where I have pages and pages of characters as they're kind of coming in and for myself. And just to keep up with it, I write notes. But I didn't have to write as many notes this week. So what they're doing is standing out more so, which I think is important for the storyline.
Yeah, I definitely believe so. I look forward to seeing what the show sort of does next, and especially in terms of timeline, because we are one day past the nurses' ball. Um, and quite a lot has happened within this one day, and Cody apparently managed to get a haircut between then and now.
Yes, I did notice his haircut. And we thank everybody for watching this week, and we will see you next time.
Have a wonderful day.
All right, bye bye, everybody.